So when it comes to BA template kit or BA toolkit, so we essentially have a set of templates that needs to be used by the business analyst for performing their respective task, technique or activity. Now, some of the templates we have already seen, for example, business case template. Now, already I have given you a brief explanation around this template. I want someone amongst you to explain me back this template.
Hi Sunil, I was just like seeing the template, not worked on it.
Mhm. But we had a session on business case, writing business case. So if you
Right,
could
right, right.
recollect.
Yes. So business case are basically for like any changes in the cost or any additional cost that we have to justify. So for that, we use business case,
Mhm.
wherein we justify like what is the description, like why do we need that particular implementation for which we are asking additional funds, and we present with different options what will be the different alternatives, like what is the first option, the second option, and what will be, like basically it's a negotiation scenario, so wherein we just want an approval for the cost.
Okay. So describe me each section within business case. What is executive summary?
Executive summary, I think, will be basically the description, like what is needed,
Mm-hmm.
like relating like the scope with
Mm-hmm.
what is required to be done,
Mm-hmm.
and so what is the actually need for that addition, for those additional funds or for any funds.
Okay. What technique you would use when it comes to document the current business process? Section 2.b.
uh, Business process modeling or workflows.
Yes.
So are we talking about the environmental analysis?
No, no, that is a later part. I'm talking about
Okay.
when it comes to articulating the section current business process, what all techniques we would be using. So one technique is, as rightly identified by Mohit, it would be business process modeling. And what's the other technique you said, Mohit? E-
Work Workflow,
Yes, if
like
there are any specific current business flow, then we have to um, articulate that in this particular business case document. So essentially how the system is working currently. Now what do we describe in description of the problem?
We just outline the basic problems that might arise or opportunity which is directly addressed.
Yeah, essentially the challenge the business is facing at this point of time, or in other words, the reason behind initiation of the project. That would come under description of the problem. Opportunity is like how do we see this problem and what are the potential solution we could give to the customer. Those solution would ultimately lead to opportunities. Under project objectives, we would define what is the objective of this particular project, why this project is being initiated. The scope, we would define what are the scope under this particular project. Then there is business benefit, project cost, assumption, analysis of potential impact on business and staff, analysis on potential impact on technology. If there are any other issues, then they would be documented. Implementation plan is the high level plan around how we would define the different phases in the project and what are the necessary milestones that we set during execution of this particular project. Now, it's not necessary that we would be sticking to this particular implementation plan towards the end of signed off business case. It would later on asked by the business users to modify those things if it is needed. Then basis on those modification, we would lay down or confirm that final implementation plan. Then there are approaches wherein I had explained you have to define the financial matrix. But before defining the financial matrix, irrespective of how good you are in terms of finance, you have to reach out to your legal and finance team to get a official approval around what to be documented in business case, because this is a very critical thing. You need to always get in touch with your finance department or your legal department to lay out these metrics. Then assessment of impact on privacy, if there are anything security constraints or any such constraint that would impact the privacy of the application or the project or the privacy of the users who would be interacting with the system, then you can define that as well. And your evaluating criteria along with the alternative solution. Now here is where you would be weighting basis on the ranking of the multiple solutions that you present in the business case. So you won't go out to the customer saying that this is the only solution. You would give them option solution 1, 2, 3, 4. Now basis on those options, you would do a weighting of the solution basis on the constraints, limitation, or any matrix that you have derived out of those solutions, and you would rank them. And then you would give your recommendation that according to you which is the best solution, and you would give a business justification around those best solution. Now then there would be some preferred alternatives like cost benefit analysis, assumptions, issues. If there are any risk um, uh, associated with that particular project, you would do some risk assessment, you would do some risk response, benefit realization, conclusion, and recommendation if they are in this particular business case template. So this is the business case template. It's not necessary that only in the project context you would be using a business case. There are multiple other scenarios as well wherein you have to justify your thoughts with the help of business case. A very simple example could be, let's say if you want to add some resources into the project. So resources are ultimately cost to a project. Now you have to justify why you need additional resource to that project. What are the risks, what are the assumption, what are the cost, what are the benefits. Then once your business case is approved, then those resources would be onboarded into your respective project. So it's not like only in case of I mean you would write business case only in case of wherein a new project is coming to your organization. The need could be anything. Wherever there is a need, there should be a justification, and that justification has to be done with the help of business case template. Then comes brainstorming.
Hey, Sunil, before
Yeah,
you move to the next one, like, can we have like 5 minutes break? Chitra is here and we are cutting cake for one of the other employees. So
okay,
just give me
not
time,
an
just
issue.
5 minutes, 5 minutes.
Now coming to this particular template, that is brainstorming agenda template, how you would start with your brainstorming, that this template talks about. So essentially you would be starting with your session objective. What is the topic that you are brainstorming on, who all are the participant in that particular brainstorming meeting, and what is the agenda, and you have to recognize all this. So these are some of the guidelines that you have to introduce your rules and objective. 10 minutes, review ground rules like all the ideas are valuable and you have to keep it an open mind. Then you have to agree and stay focused on the objective of the session, whatever session objective it may be. You have to stick to that particular objective. Now in addition to brainstorming technique, when you are applying brainstorming technique, there would be participants who may not speak during that particular session. So you as a facilitator, if you are acting as a facilitator or scribe in that particular meeting, then you have to ensure that everyone is given a fair chance of interacting with the other stakeholder. So what and how you would do that? Let's say you see a person is not speaking in a brainstorming meeting. So what you would do? how you would make that person speak.
If that person doesn't have a any thought from answer, we can ask him about what others said in the session and try to review what others said in his point of perspective.
Okay, so more importantly, you would be using a round robin technique, wherein you would pick up an topic under that particular agenda, and you would ask everyone's viewpoint. You yourself would give opportunity for everyone to speak. What is their thought process or idea around this particular topic? So you can always have a round robin technique wherein you circulate out clockwise or anti-clockwise who all are sitting in that particular table or that particular meeting room. In this way, you can give everyone a fair chance of opportunity to speak for their ideas and views around that particular uh, uh, agenda that you are trying to brainstorm on. So this is a template for your brainstorming meeting. Then you have change request template. Now, what is change request template? Change request templates are essentially used when you have already delivered your core project, your core development work has been delivered, and the customer is asking for a new change. So in that context, you would be using a change request template, wherein you would write the project name, what is the phase of that project, the current phase, like it is user acceptance testing or it is delivered, who is the project sponsor, who is the project manager, on what date the change was requested, what is the type of request, whether it's an addition of an functionality, altogether new functionality, whether it's an modification to an existing functionality, or whether they would like to remove a particular functionality. Then you have to map the source and rationale behind that particular change, and what is the date of the status change for that particular functionality. Now, who all would be the contributors when it comes to impact analysis? What is the description of impact, the priority, the cost of change, effort to implement, requirements impacted, scheduled impact, risk? These are some of the other attributes that you would like to include in your change request template. Now, once you have populated all this information, it would be sent out to the business sponsor, wherein he would take a decision whether this change request is approved, denied, postponed, or returned for additional analysis of the impact. So let's say you have populated all this impact analysis. Now, after the business user review this particular request around the impact area, they may decide it to be implemented in the next release. So in that case, they would approve it. They may altogether deny it. They may say that your impact analysis is incorrect. We are denying it. Or they may postpone it to a later release. If the size of the change is too huge, they would postpone it to the upcoming release. And if they want this change impact analysis sections to be modified, then they would mark the status as this. So these are the possible statuses that you would include in change request template. And then comes the closure, wherein you would identify all the distribution list, like who all you would be sharing this change request template: developer, tester, project manager, whoever is the accountable person whom you would be sharing this change request template. So you have to write down the names of those stakeholder in distribution list, and whatever documents you have created, any additional documents, or if there are any updates that you have made to this particular change request, then you would add it over here. So throughout the project, when your project moves into maintenance and support phase, you would be using this single change request template to handle any number of change requests, irrespective of whatever the size of the change may be, whatever the complexity of the change may be. You would follow a standard change request template. You would never ever alter this change request template once it is decided.
Sunil, Sunil, so in this thing, is it only specific to management phase, or even when it's in the development phase, then also any changes will be
No, how come
which
you
is
would be having a change request in development phase? That would be a new
okay?
addition to the requirement. Once the project is completely delivered, When the project moves
Okay.
into maintenance and support phase, then you would be having a change management process wherein you would be having this form to deal with.
Okay. So basically, anything new that is coming in during the development phase, it will go into the product backlog and it will
Right,
be scheduled as per the sprint, normal sprint, but it
right,
won't be a part of change request or something.
right.
Okay. So basically, change management would also not exist in the development phase, right? Anything related to change won't be there in the development phase.
Change
Like
would be
change management.
there, but the term would be different. It would be called as versioning during the development
Okay.
phase. Once it is moved into maintenance and support phase, that means your contract is over for the development work. Now a new contract is starting for maintenance and support. Therein, you would be using change request template.
Okay.
So change request can also be done in both the methodology, waterfall as well as agile. So you may have an entire agile project which is operational in nature, wherein you would be having change request coming up to you. So therein you may not get the requirement in the form of user stories. Rather, you would be receiving high level requirements as change request, and then you have to transform those requirements into user stories in an agile environment.
Okay, so we had a question, like I had a question basically, like how is change management used in Agile, like in which kind of, because it's iterative, right? So once you completely develop some feature and
Mhm.
then you do a UAT or something and show it to the user, and then he'll be like, I don't like this kind of view or whatever it is with the UX or something like that. Then how will you like? That's also change management, right?
See, there are two perspectives around here. One perspective is if what you are developing is a product. If it is a product, it is an ongoing process. There won't be any such, change request that would be coming up. But if you are delivering a service-based project through agile methodology, then this change request template would come into the picture. So what you are assuming is a context wherein it's a product development engagement under agile methodology. So in product development engagement, there won't be any change request as such. Rather, it would be addition of new requirements to the product backlog. But if you consider a service based project wherein all the development has been completed through agile methodology, and the customer do not wish to change the methodology when it comes to maintaining and supporting that particular product, they still want to continue with agile methodology. But considering the scope of that particular project, it's a service-based project. So the product is already developed. I mean, there is no scope around, changing that particular project at that point of time. So whatever change they would be bringing in, that would come as a change request, and those change requests would be transformed into user stories.
Okay.
And one more thing that I wanted to highlight over here is when you are practicing agile in a change management project, essentially in maintenance and support project, your billing is based on the size of the change. So the template that you see, there is a section called as cost. Okay, cost of change. So every change would be having a different cost associated with it. Once that particular change is delivered to the customer, they would be paid upfront. So it's not like a fixed bid contract. It is billed based on the change that you deliver to the customer. Every change request would be having a different cost associated to it.
Also, Sunil, in the development phase,
Mm-hmm.
is there a need for a full-time business analyst dedicated to the process, like in the when the project is in the development phase? Well, sorry, maintenance phase.
Yes, we do.
Okay, because like when I was working,
Mm-hmm.
so the environment that we used to have was Salesforce,
Mm-hmm.
but we were actually using that environment, so it was developed and it was kind of in the maintenance phase.
Mm-hmm.
So any change request that was there, so I can, like for example, a change in my permissions,
Mm-hmm.
right? The level of permission that I have, and the level of permissions, like if I want to increase those rights to view the users, a customer's profile.
Mm-hmm.
So so any change in that, I used to raise a change request, which
Mm-hmm.
will go to my manager, and if he approves it, it will go to the IT team, through online source only, and there is no other like BA or other party involved in between. So
So I won't
is that some?
consider it as a change request as such, because what was your role in this particular project?
I was working as an operations like analyst. It was an operation. It was Amex operations. It was
Okay.
like basic compliance operations and everything. So we used to have like for example, there were different rights, right? So if I have the client's detail, for example, address and everything,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes you also have the social security number, and sometimes you don't. So if I right now I don't have the right to have access to a customer social security number, but later on we need the social security number for some crucial work. So I
Mm-hmm.
would raise a request, change request, that I should have those rights to have the social security number, or for that matter creating a new ID. Like for example, if I don't have an ID for a sandbox environment,
Mm-hmm.
right? So tomorrow if I raise a request, like I had to raise a change request for that I need to create a different ID with a
Mm-hmm.
sandbox environment. So such requests used to go through just online portal.
Okay.
So
And after that request has been approved by your manager, what was the next set of processes you followed?
it's just that I used to just get it. I'm not very sure like how it used to work in the back end,
Mm-hmm.
but usually I just used to receive a mail that that request has been processed.
Okay,
So
so although it may look like a change request, or although your project may be considering it as a change request, but what essentially you were doing over here is you were raising a work order. Okay, if I had to map it in a regular project scenario, this is not the way change requests are, initiated. This is a work order request that you are talking about, whatever you have explained so far. So you would be raising the work order basis on discrepancies you found in a particular system, and then there would be a backend team or the development team who is to, make the changes basis on the work order you have raised. Now that work order has to go through a management, approval process. So there could be your project manager or whoever is involved. He would be approving those work orders. So change request is not, handled same way. Change request is essentially a requirement which comes from the business user side. So always the business user would raise a requirement. It is not something like you have to change a color of the text box, or change some data, do some data fixes from the backend, or if there are some missing element you fix, those kind of things. These small things are called as work orders. But change request is like you have to altogether customize something basis on the existing system, or you would like to include a new feature or modify an altogether existing feature. Those are called as change request. Else they would be considered as, work order, defect, issues, or any of those small items which are present.
so work orders basically will be processed by some other team.
It depends on
Or,
the overall process flow of your project, how your project SLA is defined. It would be purely based on the SLA. So every project would be having a different service line agreement or service level agreement basis on who all users are authorized to raise a work order.
okay, got it. Thank you.
Now coming to communication needs template, herein why we need to initiate a communication, what is the need behind the communication. So in order to articulate that, we have something called as communication need template, wherein we have to highlight all the stakeholders, their roles, in requirement process, their need for communication, and what should be the communication method. So you can also name it as communication plan, wherein your stakeholder would be highlighted, their role, how they would cater to the requirement engineering process, in what way they would be communicated, and what is the mode of communication, email, phone, or whatever it is, and why they needs to be communicated. If he is a responsible person, then you have to mark it, since he is responsible for this particular requirement, giving this particular requirement, then that is the reason behind initiating a communication with that particular stakeholder with that particular role. So you have to identify the list of all possible stakeholders with their roles in this particular template, and you have to describe around what are the communication methods that you would be following for that particular user. So this is an ongoing process. Like I already gave you an example, if supposing a particular stakeholder changes in a particular ongoing project, or a new stakeholder is onboarded in that particular project, then you have to keep this communication template updated. Now,
Sunil, the communication template, do we edit the existing name? Like, for example, an X person was there, the stake was a product owner initially. Now we have a Y person who is
yes,
the
you are allowed
product owner.
to edit it, but
Okay, so we
you
can change
won't
X name to Y.
no, you won't edit it that way. You would strike out the old stakeholder and you would add the new stakeholder, because you have to have a record like who has given the prior requirements. So you cannot completely delete it. You have to strike it out.
Okay.
So this is your communication plan template, wherein you would be listing down all the activities. What is the purpose of communication? Who are the audience? When the communication should happen? What would be the delivery method? What would be the presentation method? What are the document formats that you would be documenting the communications, the level of formality, and where this communication should happen? So these are some of the delivery methods, like one-on-one meeting, face-to-face telephone, group meeting, document distribution like hard copy, email, shared repository, verbal, visual presentation. When it comes to presentation methods, document formats could be text, tables, diagrams, models, and so on. And level of formality can be both formal and informal. Now, why do we need document formats in text, tables, or diagrams, model? And why do we need the delivery method as email? What does it signify? This thing, delivery method and document format.
Delivery method, I think, is basically how will you interact with the stakeholder or person or the person who is responsible to be doing the stuff. Documentation format is in what way you will be delivering that. It will be a text file or it will be a table format or a diagram.
Yes, absolutely. That is the context behind it. Then comes your data dictionary template. So data dictionary, we already know what is this particular template. We need to describe the UI screen with the help of data dictionary. Name of the objective, like the supplier, customer, and so on. The attribute names, the description, the data type. Attribute name would be first name, last name, middle name, date of birth. Its description, why you need those attributes. Its data type, first name would be your varchar data type. What is the maximum length? It could be 50 characters. What's the minimum length, if there are any, like a minimum 10 characters? Then what is the minimum value? Not true in case of when you are entering the first name or last name. There won't be any maximum value as such. You can use it in some monetary field, wherein, for example, you are working on a loan approval system. Therein, the minimum value that you could sanction for the loan application could be 150,000 USD, and the maximum value that you can sanction through that application is 500,000 USD. Anything beyond that would go for a referral to the respective underwriter of that particular bank or anything. So you can set it out, minimum value and maximum value. Then you have allowed values, like what all things are allowed, like numbers, dates, time, money, whatever data types are there, you can include it that way. So these all templates, they are very generic in nature. We are discussing over here. When you are actually onboarded to your particular project, it would change depending on the nature of depending on your organization and the nature of the project as well. It's not that this template would be used throughout various kinds of project. Every project would be having their own set of toolkit or templates to be used. So basis on project, you have to select it.
Hello. So I had this doubt, like the data is basically a database developer work thing to do, right? Not always the business analyst.
No,
Because
it's business
we'll know
analyst work.
we need
Database,
to talk. with the database? Because all this where care and how long they have assigned the number for where care and
Yes,
all that
of
stuff
course,
is
you would
we
make
need to get details.
yes, you need to consult your database developer or the database developer is not the right person. You would essentially be talking with the higher level stakeholder from technical side, like the solution architect or technical architect, because at that point of time when you are gathering the requirement, there may be a situation that developers are not yet onboarded to that particular project, because essentially you would consume around 3 months to 6 months writing the requirements. So why would they hire developers for those 6 months and they would make them sit on bench? This is not a practical scenario. They would come at a later part of I mean when the actual development start. But how you can get input is with the help of technical architect or solution architect, who are the highest level stakeholder from technical side. Now, when it comes to document analysis log template, like I said, when we do a document analysis, we go through various documentation. So you have to identify what all documents you have gone through that document repository, what version number, what is the date of the document that has been created, who was the author of the document, where you found that document, where it is located, that particular document, and what do you feel about the accuracy of the document, whether it's updated or whether it's outdated or whether it's of no use. You have to write all those things, and if there are any additional finding, then you can write in that document analysis log template. Now same thing goes for document analysis template as well, wherein you would be writing pretty much the same thing like the document analysis log template. It's the interchange between the words document analysis template or document analysis log template. So when you are applying the technique of document analysis, and let's say you are given a time period of 2 months, 2 weeks to complete your document analysis, you have to produce some artifact, right? So what's the artifact that you would be producing? You would be producing your document analysis report or document analysis log report, wherein you would highlight what all documents you have gone through and what is your feeling about this particular document, whether it's updated, outdated, or needs improvement, and your relevant information that you found through reviewing and researching those documents. Okay, information requirements worksheet is very much like your data dictionary, but instead of your attribute name, you would be having your data element name. Now, what is data element name over here? Data element name is under what name that particular information is stored in the database. Okay, in data dictionary, we map it with the screen labels, the UI screen label, like first name or last name. Now, in this information requirement worksheet, we would be having the data element name. Like if I say first name, what is the name of the table, and in that particular table what is the name of the column which stores the first name. That is something you have to document in information requirement worksheet. So RACI matrix you are already aware of, we won't be discussing it further. Now these are the requirements attribute table, wherein you would be defining all the attributes pertaining to the requirement, like the description, the type of the requirement, functional, non-functional requirement, what is the associated use case for that particular requirement, whether it's an individual requirement or group requirement, what date the requirement was captured, then what is the planned release for that particular requirement, who is the approver of that particular requirement, what is the verification method of that particular requirement. Would you be verifying through a regression test case or your functional test case, and the test case numbers along with the priority of the requirement. So this is something called as requirement attributes table, wherein you would be capturing all the attributes pertaining to that particular requirement. You would write down all the requirements over here, and essentially to the top are the attributes. It would help you build the requirement traceability matrix. Then comes your requirements management plan template. So here you would be managing your requirements. You can do it with the help of tool like Jira or VSO. But let's say your management asks you to create a plan for your requirement management, how you would be managing the requirement. Then you have to use this sort of template wherein you would be explaining them how you should go about managing the requirement. You would first start with the purpose, why you would like to manage the requirement, what is the scope of management, if there are any definition or acronyms that are present for managing those requirements. Under requirements management, who all are the stakeholders and what are their roles and responsibility? What is the process and technique that you would follow for requirements management? For example, elicitation, you would take inputs and you would apply the technique and come up with your elicitation results. Then requirement analysis and design, you would capture all the outputs by applying the respective technique. Then requirement communication, so whatever we have discussed in requirement lifecycle knowledge area, so essentially it's a summary of that particular thing that could be documented in a Word document format. So you can always use this template to communicate your requirements management plan to the senior management people. Then comes your requirements review log. So here you would be having the project name, the document, the review date, the review location, who is the author of that particular requirement, and since if you are conducting a meeting or a workshop kind of thing for reviewing your requirement, who is playing the scribe, who is the moderator, who is the peer, who all are the reviewers. You would highlight all those things. Now let's say you are reviewing a particular business requirement document, so you would be writing the page number of that particular BRD. Let's say page number 35. This particular thing, like changing the user's permission, that needs modification. It falls under non-functional requirement category and the priority is high. Now page number 45, the description is like the 100 concurrent users should be able to access the system at given point of time. Now you would like to modify that 100 users to 150 users. So the category would be non-functional requirement. Priority would be medium. So this way you can use this requirements review log template to document all your findings basis on a particular requirement document. For let's say you are reviewing a business requirement document. So what all page or section you would like to modify, you would document it over here and send it to the respective stakeholder for approval. Now use case we are already aware of. I won't stress on that particular part. Now what are risk log template? Now risk is something, it could be falls under these four categories, whether you can avoid that risk, mitigate that risk, transfer the risk or accept the risk. Okay, so you have to apply this in this particular template. You have to identify the risk, describe the risk, set a this thing probability around that particular risk, whether the probability of happening that risk is high or low, you have to indicate that, and what is the impact of that particular risk basis on the risk score that you obtain. Then you have to identify on what date that risk was identified and what is the risk response strategy, whether you would like to avoid the risk, mitigate the risk, transfer the risk or accept the risk, and what is the current status, whether it's open or closed. Now risks are something which are probable in nature. They may happen, they may not happen. So but as a business analyst, we should be able to identify the risk associated with a particular requirement. We cannot guarantee that this risk won't happen. At the same time, we cannot guarantee that this risk would happen. It's always a probability situation, but you have to identify those risks and you have to highlight in this risk log template. Stakeholder analysis template, we have already seen how you would be analyzing the stakeholder basis on the RACI matrix. Name of the stakeholder, which group he falls into, what is his role in the project, description of the stakeholder, which 4 categories he falls under: responsible, accountable, consulted, or informed. So this is a stakeholder analysis template that you could use in a particular project. Okay, this is a business analyst and project manager planning task template wherein they would plan out the task under these particular areas. Like when it comes to scope management, what would be the contribution from a business analyst side and what would be the contribution from a project manager side? When it comes to process improvement, what should be his contribution? So he would list down all the tasks that are applicable under these areas: cost management, procurement management. Not everything is applicable for everyone, like risk management, staffing management, procurement management, cost management is something purely taken care by project manager, whereas communication, quality, then process, scope and schedule are something taken care of by the business analyst, whereas process improvement is also something that falls under project manager as well. So basis on the commonalities and the difference in their scope of plans, they would be highlighting what all tasks they would be performing under those particular plans. So that is this particular worksheet. Now this is again an ongoing process. After every release, this needs to be revisited. So whatever templates that we saw, they are repetitive in nature. They won't be a standalone template. There is huge scope of improvement or modification for these templates after every release. So I hope you are using some of these template in our project work. Like the business case template, the data dictionary template, then requirements management plan template, stakeholder analysis template, traceability worksheet, use case template. I believe you are using these templates in your project work. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Can you repeat? Like it was disturbance, but now it was like,
Okay, can you hear me now?
oh yes.
No, I was asking whether you are using these templates in our project work or not.
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. Because that would give you an understanding around what you need to document under what section. So in order to understand that, you can take the context of the project scenario and basis on that, you can start using this template if not used so far.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there
So we
is
are
a,
referring them when we start.
okay. So this is a beautiful classification diagram. You can print it and post it anywhere on your wall or somewhere. It has the summarization of everything that we have covered, in terms of requirements classification, in terms of what all artifacts would be there that are needed by the business analyst to give you a easy preparation for your interviews. You would have it handy. So I believe this is also uploaded in that particular portal. You can take a print of it and stick it somewhere, and every day you can look at it and you would have better understanding around what is it.
Sunil, this is under templates only?
Yes,
Okay. Under template section, right?
yes, this is a PDF file, it's not a Word document.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so that's all I had for today's session.